Hi, and welcome to autumn. I don't know if you can see the colours that much, but I just love this time of year when all the trees start changing. It's just such a magical, all happening time. In this video you may see my olive tree fly across the balcony. It's gone over there a couple of times already, so hopefully she survives. I may have to duck out and rescue her, but we'll see how it goes. So, knowing the winter that we are about to come into, it's gonna get crazy busy. Winter in the NHS is notoriously busy anyway. Coupled that with our lovely friend, the coronavirus, it's gonna be a very interesting winter. So I am doing this video today to give you 5 of my top tips of what you could do when the ward gets busy. Next week, I am going to do a video on 5 tips of when the ward is a little calmer. Remember, we don't say the Q word in nursing. Before I continue, if you've not yet already subscribed, definitely hit that subscribe button. Like this video if you found it interesting and helpful. Share it with your colleagues and friends, and you can look forward to more helpful content, as at the moment I am posting videos every week on a Monday. So keep your eye on your home screen to see when the next videos get launched. Also, I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody that already has subscribed. Your support and encouragement has been incredibly helpful, and definitely making this new YouTube channel has been so enjoyable because of it. So thank you to each and every one of you. Before I start, it's worth just saying that everything that I'm about to mention comes with the caveat that go and tell the nurse that you're working with when it is busy that you might be helping other people. It's quite worrying as a nurse working with students that go off and do their own thing because you're left thinking that they don't necessarily appreciate the complexities of nursing care if they can't relay those simple messages. So the best thing I can tell you is please remember to go and speak to the nurse that you're working with if you want to deploy any of these tactics. Save yourself a headache, save them a headache. Now the first tip I have actually comes from working as a staff nurse on a busy ward environment, and it was actually a tactic that we as nurses would use specifically on a night shift or a weekend shift when we wouldn't always have direct interaction with the medical teams. And instead of bleeping them or calling them every time you need something, we started to create a list and just had it on the nurses station. So if I was needing some medication to be re-prescribed, instead of 4 times a day to 3 times a day or whatever, I would put that on a piece of paper on the nurses station with my name as the requester, with whichever patient it kind of reflected, and actually the action that I wanted. So that was a really helpful way of lessening the distractions to the medical team, because everybody is busy, but the medical teams are incredibly busy when they might just only have 1 or 2 doctors covering a whole variety of patients. It's about being kind to one another, and especially when it gets busier, that needs to be ramped up as well. So my tip to you as a potential student working in a very busy clinical environment would be to do the same thing, but for the nursing staff. So have a designated space, whether that's on a whiteboard, whether that is just a notebook on the nurses station, and get the nurses to jot down some jobs that you can do to help them out. This is really beneficial because sometimes when it is really busy, sometimes the interaction between nursing staff and the non-registered staff can be like ships in the night. So in order to increase that likelihood that you are making yourself available to all of the nursing staff on the ward areas is to start that note process. See how it goes. Speak to the nurse in charge to make sure that they know that actually that's a tactic that you intend to deploy, and they can then help to reassure the nursing staff that you are available and to use that process if you are needed to do any of the little tasks. It might be to go off the ward to get some medications from pharmacy. It might be to go to another ward area to get a different type of dressing. There are so many little jobs that don't get done because the days get busy, but actually there are enough people around to get them done. It's just about how to employ different tactics to get all of those jobs done in the time that it needs to happen. Leading on from that one is my second tip, and that is about talking directly to the nurse in charge. Go and speak to them and figure out what is going on the ward, so you can start to collate a list of jobs that are needing to be done, but order of priority is in the sickest patients first. So when the students talk to the nurse in charge to say, where should I focus my support, they will absolutely be able to refer you to the nurse that is working with the highest dependency patients, so that you can go and help that nurse even even if they are not the person that you're working with. It gives you great opportunities to go and learn from different patients that you might not be working directly with, but you can absolutely help out your colleagues and your team by ensuring that everything is done in a timely manner and safe and effective care can be delivered. She's doing all right out there. Oh, she's giving us a wave. Tip number 3 for me, again, would kind of directly link from tip number 1 and tip number 2. And tip number 3 for me, to you as potential students working in really busy clinical environments, is to use your eyes and all of your senses to figure out who is the busiest person on that ward. Not patient, but staff member. You can be really instrumental, really helpful when it comes to allowing all of the staff nurses and people in that team to get their breaks at the time that they are meant to get them. Every ward area has a different setup for their breaks, and I've talked about this previously. Whichever setup it is for you, it's a really good idea that you just scout out how busy people are and how likely it is that that member of staff is going to get their lunch break, their morning break, or their evening break. So you can approach them, see what sort of daily cares or activities they've got on their plan of the day, and see where you can take some of those jobs off them, free up some time, and just their stress levels will come down, and that's a much nicer environment for people to work in. So if you can be helpful in that way, that is going to really stand you in good stead. Not only for working in the team, but also to just kind of help you understand the busy periods on a ward and to help you understand why they get busy. My next point is something that you might not like, because I know from working with students for 8 years, is cleaning. Now, I don't just mean doing all of the jobs that nobody else wants to do. I am specifically talking about when the days get really manically busy, the team members can become notoriously they might be doing a dressing change and leave empty packets on the side. They could be opening a new packet of paracetamol and leave the information sheet and the box on the side. When they're reaching into a ducket to get a syringe, they may pull an extra one out and leave it on the side. This stuff happens, and it doesn't mean that you can do the same. It means that we can all help each other and tidy up as we go. Put everything away again and clean the surface down so it's clean for the next person to come in. Now, if you've got an emergency situation, that might not be possible, and it certainly isn't a very good use of your time. So as a student, you have a little bit more flexibility to free yourself up to go and help. Just put a few things back, wipe down surfaces, make sure equipment is clean to use. And this could be not only just in the medication rooms, but in the infamous sluice. Sluices should always be kept as clean and immaculate as they possibly can. Another area that is notorious for getting messy is the nurses' station. If you're working in an area now that has Epic or any kind of electronic patient record system, this should now limit the amount of paper that is on the nurses' station itself. However, in transition periods, in really busy inpatient settings or day cases, there will still be the need to use paper. So if you're seeing anything like that, patient records left on the side, make sure that you're putting them away and tidying up that nurse's station to make it look clean and welcoming for the visitors on the ward. My 5th tip, again, kind of leads on from that, and it's about answering phones. You will know as a student, before starting any placement, you need to ring to get your off duty. How many times have you been left just waiting for somebody to pick that phone up? It is so frustrating when you can't get through because everybody has time constraints. When you start on the placement area, you suddenly realise why that phone was ringing off the hook. It's really frustrating, but think about what it must be like for family members or carers to be calling the ward for an update on their loved one and they can't get through. Not only is it frustrating for them, but they also start to panic because they know that the nurses aren't free, so they probably start thinking something's happening on the ward. Again, if you are able to, pick up the phone, take messages, give them to the nurses or put them on hold to go and get somebody to take that phone call. Make sure that your telephone manner does not sell the chaos that is going on around you. If you can answer the phone in a calm, controlled, polite, helpful, welcoming manner, I guarantee you that you are already going to stop a lot of problems potentially coming from that phone call. The person that's calling the ward, by the time you finally pick up, they might be slightly irate. It could be somebody that's late for appointment. There are multiple things that could be going through the person's mind on the other end of that phone. If you answer that phone in a rude, panicked and rushed manner, you're going to get the same response. If you answer it while smiling and talking, you will be able to hear that somebody is smiling while they're talking to you. That's such a nice feeling for somebody to call a ward and get that response versus the cold, abrupt, rushed response. Simple tactics like that will make your day a lot easier and also a lot more pleasant. Nobody comes to work to be harassed, so limit the opportunities in which you're going to get sharp tongues back or any abrupt, unwanted kind of manner. Now, there are some phone calls, say from the laboratories where they study the blood samples of patients. Some people need to speak to a registered nurse, so don't be put off if they say, could you get a staff nurse for me? Because sometimes people need to speak to a registered staff member. If a blood sample is reading as a low HB or a low platelet count, for example, these results quite often need to be relayed to a registered nurse. So don't take it personally, but hopefully knowing those sorts of things will just take the sting out of it when you feel like you're not good enough. It's not about that, it's purely about safety. So no doubt you are about to start placement, possibly today or this week, if you're a first year student anyway. I really wish you all the best. Be prepared for busy winters, be prepared for busy shifts. So get a good pair of shoes on you, make sure you take your breaks, and try and be the most helpful person that you can to everybody in the team that you're working with. And next week, I'm going to talk about what you can do when the ward is a little bit calmer. Believe it or not, there are calmer times. If you've been on placement already, you will know this, but I would like to share with you a few tips that I've got in order to make sure that you're using that time the best that you can. And that's it, and my olive tree has survived. Amazing. Off the ward to get some medications from if you are working in that note just is to start just that. Oh, I can't talk today. Wrap it up.